From the comedy stage to Hollywood screens, Katt Williams has carved out a career that's as bold and unfiltered as his punchlines. But what does life look like now for this unapologetic comedic genius? In this video, we take you inside Katt Williams' one-of-a-kind lifestyle, from his lavish estates that match his larger-than-life persona, to the luxury cars and designer flair that scream success on his own terms. We'll also explore the highs, the controversies, the comebacks, and his impressive net worth in 2025. This isn't just a story about fame. It's about resilience, reinvention, and staying true to yourself no matter what. Before the spotlight, before the standing ovations and scandals, before the tailored suits and private jets, there was Micah Sierra Williams. Born on September 2, 1971, in the working-class heart of Cincinnati, Ohio, Katt Williams began his journey far from the flashing cameras and roaring crowds that would later define him. He came into the world with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. Raised in a devoutly religious household, his early years were structured by scripture, discipline, and community ritual. His mother, a practicing Jehovah's Witness, instilled a deep moral compass in him, one that would guide and occasionally haunt him in later years. Church wasn't just a weekly affair. It was the gravitational pull of the family home. The quiet prayers, the folded hands, the stories of redemption, they all seeped into Micah's foundation. But even in that solemn structure, there were sparks of rebellion, sparks that didn't want to be confined. By the time he was a preteen, it was clear that Micah wasn't like the other kids. He had the gift of observation. He could dissect a room with a glance and disarm adults with his vocabulary. Teachers noted his high IQ and razor-sharp wit, but he wasn't easy to contain. Structure, for Micah, was a challenge, not a comfort. At just 13 years old, he made a decision that would change his life forever. He left home. With nothing but a backpack and the street smarts he'd sharpened in silence, young Micah hitchhiked to Florida. There, on the fringes of society, he began to live as an emancipated minor. No home, no guardian, no backup plan. In Florida, he survived by any means necessary. He sold books, flowers, and batteries on street corners. He took odd jobs, made strangers laugh for tips, and learned to decode human behavior not in textbooks, but in 24-hour diners and shadowy back alleys. It was here that Micah Williams was forged into the hustler he would become. The streets were unforgiving, but they were his first real stage. The audience wasn't paying, but they were watching. Every interaction was a performance, every day a test. And slowly, through the struggle, a new identity began to form, one that would eventually take center stage under a different name. This was the beginning, not of a career, but of a calling. The world had just met Micah, but Katt Williams was already on his way. Katt Williams may not have followed a traditional path through education, but his intellect was undeniable from an early age. He was what teachers called precocious, a word used when a child's intelligence borders on unsettling. Even as a young boy in Cincinnati, Micah was known to ace exams, spar with teachers in debate, and devour encyclopedias like bedtime stories. He reportedly scored exceptionally well on national standardized tests, placing him years ahead of his peers academically. But school, for Katt, was a limited arena. It couldn't hold his curiosity, and it certainly couldn't contain his defiance of authority. He would eventually drop out, not due to lack of ability, but because the world outside the classroom held more relevance to the lessons he truly wanted to learn. And once he was on his own in Florida, every day became a form of schooling. Life became the textbook. Survival, negotiation, humor. These were the subjects he studied on the street. His comedic influences came from a different sort of curriculum. Richard Pryor was the professor. Raw, confessional, dangerous. George Carlin was the philosopher. Precise, societal, skeptical. Eddie Murphy was the virtuoso. Smooth, theatrical, magnetic. Katt absorbed their styles but never mimicked them. Instead, he took what was useful and distilled it into something uniquely his. Part preacher, part prophet, part stand-up sniper. But beyond comedy, there were deeper influences shaping his worldview. Katt often cited Malcolm X as a moral compass. The civil rights leader's blend of intellect, confrontation, and spirituality had a profound impact on how Williams saw the world, and more importantly, how he felt the world saw him. By his late teens, Katt Williams wasn't just a kid with a dream. He was a young man with a message. His comedic voice hadn't yet found a stage, but his perspective was already sharpened like a blade. The world would soon hear from him, not just to laugh, but to listen. In the early 1990s, while most up-and-coming comedians were chasing club gigs in New York or LA, Katt Williams was mastering the underground grind. He started small, corner bars, converted garages, and late-night dive joints. He performed anywhere people would listen. His comedy was fearless even then, an electrifying mix of street logic, social commentary, and metaphysical riffs that stunned and confused crowds in equal measure. But he wasn't trying to fit in. Katt was building something different, a comedic sermon from the perspective of an unfiltered outsider. He moved west, settling in Oakland, California, where he began sharpening his set on the city's lively stand-up circuit. Here, he connected with a network of comedians, promoters, and bootleg tape dealers who helped circulate his name like wildfire. His stage persona, charismatic, unapologetic, and intellectually nimble, was impossible to ignore. He didn't just tell jokes, he dissected the human condition with a pimp's cadence and a preacher's fire. Then came the break that would introduce him to mainstream audiences. The role of Money Mike in Friday After Next, 2002. Small in screen time but massive in impact, the flamboyant, fast-talking hustler became an instant cult favorite. Audiences didn't just laugh. They repeated his lines, quoted him at parties, and passed around burned DVDs just to see him work the screen. The character was a distilled version of everything Katt stood for. Slick, fearless, and surgically funny. And suddenly, he wasn't just a club comic anymore. He was a star in the making. Following Friday After Next, Katt was invited to host BET's Comic View, where he showcased not only his own material, but also elevated a new generation of comedians. His appearances on Def Comedy Jam and other platforms continued to build his momentum. Around this time, the nickname Cat in the Hat began to circulate, nodding to his signature perm and outlandish attire. But what truly set him apart wasn't just the hair, the voice, or the walk. It was the truth behind the punchlines. Katt didn't shy away from taboo topics. He talked about racism, poverty, addiction, hypocrisy, and religion and politics, all through the lens of someone who had lived it. His early stand-up routines became more than entertainment. They were social critiques disguised as laughter. In a comedy world dominated by either safe material or slapstick, Katt offered something razor-edged and real. By the mid-2000s, the buzz was undeniable. The underground had gone mainstream. The kid from the streets of Cincinnati had turned his hard-earned wisdom into comedy gold. Katt Williams had officially arrived. The 2000s didn't just welcome Katt Williams, they erupted around him. Following his breakout in Friday After Next and his rising visibility on Comic View, Katt seized the momentum with calculated precision. He launched his own national stand-up tour, The Pimp Chronicles, and it changed everything. Clad in velvet suits, silk shirts, and the ever-present permed hair that became his signature, Katt didn't just take the stage. He owned it like a revival preacher with a sermon the world had been too afraid to say out loud. His 2006 HBO special, The Pimp Chronicles Part 1, wasn't just a comedy event, it was a cultural flashpoint. The now legendary "this shit right here nigga" bit spread across the internet and barbershop conversations like wildfire. Suddenly, Katt wasn't just funny. He was quotable, iconic, undeniable. He followed it up with American Hustle in 2007, a hybrid of documentary footage and stand-up that peeled back the curtain on his worldview. It was raw, confessional, and fiercely intelligent, a pattern that would define all of his work moving forward. While others sought to entertain, Katt sought to enlighten, provoking his audience to laugh and think. It was this duality, comedian and philosopher, that gave him his power. But fame brought its shadows. With the rise came constant media scrutiny, viral headlines, and an avalanche of legal issues. Between 2008 and 2011, Katt was arrested multiple times, For everything from weapons possession to altercations at department stores, the press painted him as unstable, erratic, a comedic genius unraveling in real time. Still, fans remained loyal, because behind the headlines, they saw something real. Someone who wasn't afraid to tell uncomfortable truths, even if it cost him. Katt often said, "If you ain't offending somebody, you probably ain't telling the truth." It became a motto for his brand of unapologetic truth-telling. He continued to tour relentlessly, selling out arenas across the country. His shows were a mix of electric performance, personal testimony, and political commentary. He mocked celebrities, critiqued the system, and slipped in moments of vulnerability that revealed a man still at war with the world, and sometimes himself. Despite industry gatekeepers trying to box him in, Katt remained an independent force. He often financed his own specials, controlled his own tours, and distanced himself from the Hollywood machine. His refusal to play the game made him both a liability to networks and a legend to fans. By the end of the 2010s, Katt Williams wasn't just a successful comedian. He was a cultural disruptor, an outsider who found a microphone and refused to use it for anything less than truth. He didn't rise to fame the way others did. He fought for it, bled for it, and most importantly, he earned it. Katt Williams' rise wasn't just a flash of brilliance. It was a sustained blaze fueled by raw talent, relentless work ethic, and an unwavering dedication to authenticity. Through every scandal and sabbatical, he kept delivering, and not just in comedy clubs. His career, layered and dynamic, evolved into a body of work that's now both critically lauded and culturally archived. After the Pimp Chronicles part, one became a cult classic. Williams doubled down on his momentum. His follow-up, It's Pimpin' Pimpin', 2008, was a masterclass in satirical performance. Here, he reached a new level, fusing political commentary with personal storytelling. Whether unpacking the Bush administration, the hypocrisy of the church, or the trials of fatherhood, Katt proved he wasn't just a comic. He was a truth-teller in a suit. By the time Katt Willams, 2012 dropped, he had carved out a legacy as one of the few comedians who could headline an arena, critique a government, and still make people laugh until they cried. These weren't just specials, they were cultural events. Entire sections of his audience would quote his routines in daily life, dissect them like literature, and use them as fuel for conversation and critique. But perhaps his most surprising career pivot came not on a stage, but on a soundstage. In 2018, Williams guest starred in the critically acclaimed FX series Atlanta, created by Donald Glover. In the episode Alligator Man, Katt played Willie, a recluse with erratic energy and a pet alligator in the next room. His performance was subtle, haunting, and completely unlike his stand-up persona. The result? An Emmy Award for Outstanding Guest Actor in a Comedy Series. It was a moment of vindication, proof that his talent went far beyond the stage. Katt had range, emotional depth, and dramatic instincts that Hollywood had barely scratched. Behind the scenes, his tours continued to gross millions. Some years, he earned upwards of $10 to $15 million from ticket sales alone. His 2022 special World War III, released via Netflix, reaffirmed that he still had the fire, and more importantly, something to say. He never relied on gimmicks, co-stars, or massive production budgets, just a microphone, a spotlight, and an audience ready to be challenged. In a career that has spanned over 2 decades, Katt Williams has done more than make people laugh, he's made them listen. And in the world of comedy, that is the highest achievement of all. While stand-up remains the cornerstone of Katt Williams' legacy, his creative spirit was never confined to a single platform. Behind the scenes, and often outside the mainstream spotlight, he's built a diverse portfolio of side projects, artistic experiments, and personal ventures that reflect the complexity of his mind and the independence of his hustle. One of Katt's most underappreciated pursuits has been music. Though not widely publicized, he has collaborated with hip-hop artists, contributed to underground mixtapes, and even produced tracks under aliases. His connection to the rap world isn't just casual, it's spiritual. His lyrical cadence in stand-up mirrors a rapper's flow, and he's long been respected in hip-hop circles as a truth-teller with rhythm in his delivery. Whether appearing in music videos for artists like Cameron or Snoop Dogg, or using live DJ sets during his shows, Katt treats comedy and music as twin channels of expression. Offstage, he's dipped into production through small-scale ventures, including developing stand-up specials for other comedians. Known for mentoring up-and-coming talent, Katt has quietly helped several artists navigate the harsh realities of the entertainment business. He's been vocal about the importance of ownership, encouraging younger performers to retain their rights, avoid exploitative deals, and control their own content. Real estate has also played a significant role in his post-fame investments. Katt has reportedly owned multiple properties across the U.S., including in Georgia, California, and Arizona. But these aren't just status purchases. They're part of his long-term vision of stability and privacy. Several of these homes double as creative sanctuaries and business bases, equipped with studio spaces, editing bays, and performance lounges. Perhaps most surprising is his growing involvement in spiritual speaking circuits. Katt has made discreet appearances at small private conferences, wellness retreats, and even unconventional faith gatherings. He shares reflections on God, consciousness, ego, and energy, often blending his street experiences with scriptural references and metaphysical concepts. These appearances aren't live-streamed or commercialized. They're intimate, invite-only events that offer a glimpse into a side of Katt that few get to see, the philosopher in motion. These projects may not make front-page news, but they form the scaffolding of Katt's real empire, one that's built on wisdom, ownership, and artistic freedom. By 2025, Katt Williams lives a lifestyle shaped less by traditional celebrity flash and more by an intense pursuit of privacy, comfort, and spiritual peace. His success is visible, but selectively. His homes, his routines, his daily rituals, all reflect a man who has climbed the mountain, seen the view, and chosen carefully where to settle. Katt splits his time primarily between three known properties: a sprawling estate outside Atlanta, a tucked-away villa in Southern California, and a secluded ranch compound deep in the Arizona desert. Each residence is tailored to a different rhythm of his life: work, play, and reflection. His Atlanta home is arguably his flagship property. Set behind a winding, tree-lined driveway and guarded by state-of-the-art security, the estate sprawls across several acres. The main house features Mediterranean architecture with tall archways, limestone finishes, and oversized windows that pull in the Georgia sunlight. Inside, there's a private theater with velvet reclining seats, a home recording studio, a billiard room, and a walk-in closet filled with designer suits, silk shirts, and vintage accessories, many of which he's customized himself. A centerpiece of the estate is the sanctuary room, a minimalist candle-lit space filled with floor cushions, framed scriptures, and a hand-carved altar imported from West Africa. Katt has called it the quietest place in America. Just outside, there's a reflective pool shaped like an ankh, a basketball half-court painted with celestial symbols, and a temperature-controlled greenhouse where he grows his own herbs and produce. The property also includes several guest houses, often used by visiting friends, artists, or spiritual advisors. In Southern California, his SoCal villa offers a sleeker, more modern vibe. Built into the side of a hillside, this property boasts panoramic views of Los Angeles from floor-to-ceiling glass walls. White marble floors contrast with warm wooden textures, and the home is peppered with abstract art, much of it collected from unknown artists or created by Katt himself. It's here that he entertains industry guests, screens unreleased material, and occasionally hosts low-key gatherings of artists, producers, and comedians. The Arizona Desert Ranch is the most mysterious. Far removed from the public eye, this compound includes an off-grid solar setup, underground bunkers, and an open-air meditation dome. Locals refer to it as the Silence, and it's said to be where Katt retreats when he needs to recalibrate. Few photos exist, and those who visited speak of a minimalist, almost monastic energy. No televisions, no alcohol, no distractions, just stars, sand, and scripture. Across all his properties, there's a common thread: intentionality. Every detail is purposeful, From the scents that fill the air, usually frankincense or sandalwood, to the book collections curated in each room, ranging from ancient philosophy to quantum metaphysics. His spaces are a fusion of opulence and introspection. And yes, the man enjoys his luxuries. Heated floors, gold-plated bathroom fixtures, voice-controlled lighting systems, and imported Italian bedding are standard across all his homes. But more than wealth, these homes speak to sovereignty. Katt doesn't just live in luxury, he curates it on his terms. As of 2025, Katt Williams' estimated net worth stands between $12 to $15 million, bolstered by decades of touring, streaming deals, real estate holdings, and private investments. But more than the numbers, his wealth is expressed in freedom. The freedom to speak, retreat, create, and live outside the mold. In a culture obsessed with visibility, Katt's lifestyle is a masterclass in controlled access. He shows you just enough to know he's still shining, but never enough to see where the light begins. Katt Williams has never been shy about style. Whether stepping onto a stage in a velvet blazer or pulling up to a show in a customized Rolls-Royce, his presentation has always been part of the performance. And when it comes to cars, his taste is nothing short of theatrical, bold, bespoke, and unapologetically extravagant. As of 2025, Katt's car collection is as distinctive as his comedic voice. He doesn't just drive luxury, he curates it. Each vehicle in his fleet reflects a different side of his personality: the philosopher, the boss, the nomad, the showman. At the center of the collection sits his Rolls-Royce Wraith, a customized masterpiece draped in matte obsidian black with hand-painted crimson pinstriping. The interior? White leather seats with gold piping, embroidered scripture passages on the headrests, and a scent system that releases notes of Egyptian amber and vanilla. The starlight ceiling twinkles with constellations that mimic his zodiac chart. It's not just a car, it's a rolling sanctuary. Then there's his Bentley Flying Spur, a car he often uses for high-profile arrivals and industry dinners. The Bentley, painted in a deep emerald green, features an interior of forest-toned suede, mahogany trim, and a sound system reportedly fine-tuned to play old soul records at concert-level clarity. For Katt, driving isn't about flash, it's about frequency. He chooses cars that hum on a higher vibration. For daily movement, he leans on a Cadillac Escalade ESV, heavily armored and fitted with blackout privacy glass. It's the workhorse of the collection, reliable, secure, and fit for transporting family or team members when he's on tour. Rumors say this model is equipped with a security surveillance suite, retractable partition, and voice-scrambled intercom system. Because in Katt's world, discretion is as valuable as luxury. But perhaps the crown jewel of his automotive world is the Ferrari 812 Superfast, his weekend indulgence. Painted in a rare burnt copper tone and fitted with hand-stitched Italian leather, it's the speed demon of the garage. He's been spotted racing it through Palm Springs in the early morning, his perm wrapped under a silk scarf, with jazz or scripture playing from the speakers. Beyond ground travel, Katt has also reportedly entered the realm of high-altitude luxury with a private jet, believed to be a Gulfstream G450. The jet, though rarely photographed, is said to be customized with black and gold interior design, recliner pods, and a small soundproof room for writing, meditation, or impromptu sermon rehearsals. He also owns a collection of luxury watches, Audemars Piguet, Rolex, and a rumored one-of-one Patek Philippe with a diamond-studded case engraved with his children's initials. In addition, he's known to collect rare books, ancient coins, and Afrocentric artwork, some of which are housed in vault-like display rooms at his Atlanta estate. To Katt, wealth isn't just material, it's symbolic. His vehicles and luxury assets are less about status and more about sovereignty. Each piece is an extension of a man who defied the odds, mastered his image, and now moves through life exactly how he wants, on his own terms, in his own ride, at his own speed. Katt Williams has never been a politician, but in many ways, he's more influential than most who hold office. His voice, raw and unfiltered, has long served as a megaphone for those disillusioned by politics, injustice, and hypocrisy. In an era dominated by curated soundbites and carefully scripted PR statements, Katt stands apart as someone who says what he believes, even if it costs him. From early on in his career, Katt made it clear he doesn't align blindly with any political party. He's criticized Democrats and Republicans with equal intensity, often mocking what he calls the illusion of choice in American politics. To him, the game is rigged, the promises are hollow, and the system was never built for people who look like him or come from where he comes from. He has spoken openly about systemic racism, the prison industrial complex, police brutality, and income inequality, long before these topics became fashionable in celebrity circles. Unlike other public figures who jump on social causes when they trend, Katt's commentary has always come from a personal, lived place. He speaks not as an outsider trying to raise awareness, but as someone who has felt the weight of the system firsthand. One of his most viral unscripted moments came in 2020 during the pandemic, when he released a surprise monologue titled 2020, The Year of the Truth. In it, Katt addressed everything from George Floyd and Black Lives Matter to misinformation and spiritual awakening, all while wearing a rainbow-colored afro wig as a nod to the chaos of the times. The message wasn't about being politically correct. It was about being correct, period. While he avoids campaigning for politicians, he frequently encourages his audience to educate themselves, question everything, and stop voting like you're hoping for change. Vote like you're demanding it. It's a stance rooted in empowerment, not partisanship. In 2025, Katt remains politically active in his own way, through comedy, through critique, and through conversations that most celebrities would never dare touch. For him, truth is non-negotiable, and when he steps on stage with a mic, it becomes less of a comedy show and more of a town hall for the people who never felt invited to one. He's not here to run for office. He's here to remind the office who they work for. Behind the sharp wit and silver-tongued delivery, Katt Williams lives by a deeply personal code, one that blends spiritual discipline, self-examination, and metaphysical curiosity. While the world often sees him as a high-voltage entertainer, those closest to Katt describe a man driven by ritual, reflection, and a hunger for divine clarity. Katt has long spoken about his belief in God, but his spiritual worldview defies easy categorization. Though raised as a Jehovah's Witness, his adult beliefs draw from a mosaic of teachings: Christian scripture, Islamic texts, African spirituality, metaphysics, and even quantum consciousness. He reads not just the Bible, but also the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, and esoteric texts most people have never heard of. God speaks in multiple languages, he once said, but the truth always sounds the same. His mornings, when not on tour, begin in silence. Meditation comes before movement. He journals prolifically, sometimes pages at a time, writing down visions, affirmations, and spiritual epiphanies. He's known to fast intermittently, not just for health, but to sharpen his intuition. Fasting clears the static, he told an interviewer. You start to hear what's really being said in the world and in yourself. Wellness for Katt isn't about kale smoothies and Pilates studios. It's energetic. He avoids processed food, leans vegetarian when possible, and rarely drinks. He's practiced yoga in the desert, taken vow of silence retreats, and is rumored to work with a small circle of spiritual advisors, including a numerologist, a Reiki master, and an herbalist who crafts personalized tinctures based on his mood and goals. He believes in vibration, that words, thoughts, even clothing carry energy. This belief shows up in his lifestyle, from the frequency-based music he plays in his home, to the crystals placed discreetly throughout his living spaces, to the colors he wears depending on the energy he wants to attract. But above all, Katt believes in accountability. He often says, "You can lie to everybody else, but you can't lie to God, and you definitely can't lie to yourself." That guiding philosophy, honesty above all, has been both his weapon and his wound. It's what gives his comedy its force, his choices their conviction, and his solitude its sacredness. In a world addicted to distraction, Katt Williams walks the rare path of conscious awareness, and he walks it with full intention. For all the lights, headlines, and public attention, Katt Williams remains a fiercely private man when it comes to the matters of the heart. His personal life, much like his offstage energy, is intentionally shielded, an intimate space guarded by loyalty, principle, and deep emotional ties. At the center of that world are his children. As of 2025, Katt is the father of 8 children, many of whom he adopted over the years. While the entertainment industry has often spotlighted his arrests or outbursts, it rarely talks about the single father who quietly provided homes, education, and opportunity to kids who had none. His love for his children runs deep, and in many interviews, he's spoken about how being a father kept him grounded during times when fame threatened to pull him off center. He once described fatherhood as the only real job that's full-time, underpaid, and spiritually mandatory. Despite his demanding schedule and unpredictable life in the spotlight, Katt has always prioritized being present. From parent-teacher conferences to birthdays and vacations, he shows up, sometimes quietly, often unannounced, always intentionally. His kids are rarely featured in tabloids or on social media, by design. He wants them to live free of the spotlight's distortion. As for his romantic life, it remains one of the few unsolved mysteries in the world of celebrity. While he has been linked to a handful of women over the years, no long-term partner has ever been publicly confirmed in recent times. In 2025, there are whispers of a steady presence. A rumored partner seen traveling with him on private getaways to Turks and Caicos, Dubai, and a quiet villa in Costa Rica. But Katt himself has neither confirmed nor denied these rumors. What's clear is that he values connection on a deeper level. He's spoken about the need for spiritual compatibility, emotional intelligence, and the ability to build in silence. For Katt, love isn't about red carpets or public appearances, it's about alignment. He once said, "I don't need somebody to match my lifestyle. I need someone to match my soul." In the rare images that surface of him with his family, typically grainy shots snapped by fans or discreet vacation photos, you don't see a celebrity. You see a man at peace, a father, a protector, a provider, someone who knows that real wealth isn't what you own, but who you raise and how you love. In a life shaped by noise, Katt's greatest treasures are found in his quietest places. Beyond the bravado, punchlines, and public perception, Katt Williams is a man of surprising depth, one whose private passions often remain hidden beneath the surface of his celebrity. While audiences around the world know him as a comedic powerhouse, few are aware of the hidden talents and intellectual curiosities that have shaped his life behind closed doors. One of his most unexpected gifts? Painting. Katt is an avid visual artist who has created dozens of abstract works, most of which have never been publicly exhibited. He paints in solitude, often at his Arizona ranch, using canvas as a form of emotional processing. His work is deeply symbolic, blending spiritual iconography, Afrocentric motifs, and bursts of color meant to reflect states of consciousness. Trusted friends say he's considered doing a private gallery show, but only when the message feels ready. He's also a poet, a practice he began during his teenage years on the streets of Florida. His journals, stacked high in his private office, contain thousands of handwritten pages filled with verses, affirmations, and philosophical reflections. Unlike his stand-up, his poetry is often melancholic, deeply introspective, and laced with scripture and metaphysical questions. It's his way of speaking to himself when no stage is available. Surprisingly, Katt once entertained the idea of attending seminary school. During a brief period in the late 90s, he became deeply immersed in theological studies and explored becoming a non-denominational preacher. Though he ultimately chose the path of comedy, traces of that spiritual calling continue to echo through his performances, interviews, and worldview. He's often described as a comedian who preaches, or a prophet in Gucci shoes. In addition, Katt has an uncanny ability to memorize lengthy texts after only a few reads, be it scripture, speeches, or full pages of dialogue. His memory is photographic, a talent that's helped him both on set and on stage. These hidden layers reveal a man who's more than just what the public sees. Katt Williams is a thinker, a creator, and a seeker, a man who's built not just a career, but a multi-dimensional legacy. Katt Williams' journey through fame has never been a straight line. It's a jagged, unpredictable path, lined with applause, controversy, breakthroughs, and breakdowns. For every standing ovation, there was a headline. For every record-breaking tour, there was a mugshot. His career is a case study in contradiction, how a brilliant mind can burn bright even while under constant fire. From the late 2000s into the 2010s, Katt faced a turbulent wave of legal issues that threatened to overshadow his artistry. Between 2008 and 2016, he was arrested more than a dozen times. Charges ranged from assault and battery to weapons possession and disorderly conduct. The incidents became near-constant tabloid fodder. Katt fighting a teenager at a soccer game, Katt allegedly threatening a store clerk, Katt leading police on a chase via motorized tricycle. The absurdity of the headlines made him both a punchline and a cautionary tale. Some saw a celebrity spiraling. Others saw a system eager to dismantle a non-conforming black artist who spoke too boldly, too truthfully, and too often without a filter. Amid the chaos, Katt took several public breaks from performing. During one hiatus in 2012, he abruptly walked off stage mid-show in Oakland, leaving fans bewildered. That same year, he announced he was retiring from stand-up altogether, a claim he later walked back. At the time, it seemed like Katt was unraveling in real time, wrestling demons far more personal than public. He later opened up about those years, describing them not as breakdowns, but as periods of spiritual conflict. "It wasn't me losing control," he said in a rare 2018 interview. "It was me rejecting control that wasn't mine to begin with." He hinted at feeling targeted by the industry, by opportunists, and even by spiritual forces bigger than the courtroom. Throughout the setbacks, one constant remained: his audience. Fans stayed loyal, packing arenas and sharing bootlegs of his rants and routines, finding in his flaws a reflection of their own battles. Because while the scandals were loud, so was the honesty. Katt never pretended to be perfect. He wore his mistakes, his paranoia, even his pain out in the open. By the early 2020s, Katt began reclaiming his narrative. He returned to the stage with a calmer demeanor and clearer purpose. His 2022 Netflix special, World War III, wasn't just a comeback, it was a spiritual checkpoint. Wiser, sharper, focused. These setbacks weren't career-ending, they were course-correcting. And in true Katt fashion, they became part of the message. His missteps were never edited out. They were integrated, transformed into testimony. In a culture quick to cancel, Katt Williams reminded everyone of a deeper truth. Falling down doesn't end you. Staying down does. And Katt never stayed down for long. Katt Williams' legacy is not just carved into the world of comedy. It's etched into the cultural consciousness of a generation. He didn't just make people laugh. He made them feel, think, and reconsider the boundaries of comedy itself. His voice, piercing, poetic, and unfiltered, spoke to an audience often overlooked by mainstream narratives. The hustlers, the misfits, the spiritually hungry, the ones who lived too close to the margins to believe in polite fiction. He stands among a rare breed of comedians who use the stage not merely for entertainment, but for revolution. His jokes carried weight. His delivery echoed the cadence of prophets and street poets alike. And while some critics dismissed his material as erratic or incendiary, his fans heard sermons, coded messages about oppression, freedom, hypocrisy, and survival. In many communities, a Katt Williams special wasn't just a performance, it was a public service announcement. More than any specific award or accolade, his influence is seen in the comedians he inspired. A new wave of unapologetic, spiritually aware, socially conscious comics have cited Katt as a major influence, not just for his fearlessness, but for his originality. He never tried to be anyone else. He never chased trends. He was the trend. He also carved out space for realness in an industry obsessed with polish. While many of his peers pursued sitcom deals, brand endorsements, and sanitized scripts, Katt leaned further into the raw. He embraced independence, owned his material, funded his tours, And in doing so, he became a blueprint for creative sovereignty in an era where artistic control is often bartered for visibility. And then there's his impact beyond comedy. In the same way Tupac Shakur blurred the lines between artist, philosopher, and outlaw, Katt occupies a space that transcends profession. He's part truth-teller, part mystic, part anti-hero. He occupies the uncomfortable middle ground, never fully accepted by the establishment, but eternally immortalized by the people. In barbershops, living rooms, and late-night group chats, his words still circulate, dissected, quoted, debated. His specials continue to be passed around like sacred texts among those who understand that laughter can be a weapon, and truth, a kind of holy fire. As of 2025, his story remains unfinished. Not because he hasn't done enough, but because Katt Williams is still evolving, still challenging, still daring to speak when silence would be safer. His cultural impact lies not just in what he said, but in how he said it, and who he said it for. He didn't just live through the chaos, he translated it. And that, in the end, is what makes Katt Williams a legend. Katt Williams is not your typical Hollywood story. He didn't follow the rules, didn't fit the mold, and never asked for permission. And yet, he built a legacy that can't be ignored. One laugh, one truth, one unapologetic moment at a time. From sleeping in cars to flying private, from neighborhood stages to sold-out arenas, his life has been a masterclass in survival, resilience, and reinvention. He's navigated fame without losing his edge, and suffered setbacks without surrendering his soul. At a time when the world favors filters and carefully curated images, Katt remains gloriously unfiltered, an artist whose imperfections are part of his power. In 2025, he lives not just in wealth, but in intention. His homes are sanctuaries, his cars are temples on wheels, his silence speaks as loudly as his punchlines. And while others chase attention, Katt chases alignment, with God, with truth, with his purpose. He may never win the most mainstream awards, and he may never be the safest name in comedy. But that's never been the goal. Katt Williams didn't come to fit in. He came to wake people up. As the screen fades, we see him, silhouetted against a Los Angeles skyline, a jet in the distance, the soft glow of twilight behind him. Not just a man who made it, but a man who meant it. In a world of gimmicks and echo chambers, Katt Williams stands as a reminder. The most powerful voice is the one that tells the truth, even when it hurts. Because in the end, that's Katt's real legacy. Not the headlines, not the money, not even the laughter. But the truth, delivered, without compromise, and always, always in style.